It's working now.
Yes.
Oh, good.
If you'll pause just a sec, because we'll have a double audio until I can get it paused. All right, we got it. Go right ahead, Angelo. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, all right. Good evening and welcome to the same Human Rights Commission. My name is Angelo Arredondo. I'm the chair of the commission. I live in Ward 2. And as always, we'll do introductions and I'll pass it to Kathy.
Hi, everybody. Kathy Ostran-Ponchen. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission. I live in South Salem, and I'll pass it to Susan.
I'm Susan McNaught. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I live in South Salem, and I will pass it to Amelia.
Hi, my name's Amelia Knight. I am a resident of Ward 4. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I will pass it to Hamadi Jackson.
I am Hamadi and I am a guest here. I live in Ward 5 and hello everyone. And I guess I will pass it to Gretchen.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. It's Gretchen Bennett. She, her, hers pronouns, and I'm staff to the commission. And let's see. Kathy, I don't think you said hi yet.
I did. I don't think Kelsey or Lieutenant Aguilar have gone yet.
Great. Kelsey.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Kelsey. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a member of Ward 4, and I will pass it to Debbie.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Debbie Aguilar. I'm a lieutenant with Salem Police. I'm the liaison between the police department and the Salem Human Rights Commission, and I use she, her pronouns. And I think that was it. Oh, Angelo, you already went.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And sorry, I forgot I use he, him pronouns. Okay, we can move on to our public comment. Gretchen, do we have any public comment?
No, I didn't receive any tonight.
Okay, sounds good. And then consent calendar. We don't have quorum, do we?
No, you're one shy, so you'll need to pause. Maybe someone will still come tonight.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll pause on that, and then if we have quorum, I'll just come back to it. Okay, let's do our actions and our discussion items, and that's going to be our Chapter 97 recommendations. I think we have updated documents, right, Gretchen?
We do. We have updated documents attached to your materials. However, I really want to appreciate Commissioner Ostran, Poncion, Kathy for discovering a couple of issues with the documents. We were continuing, and we just lost her. Kathy was challenged with, I think, Wi-Fi or email issues. But one of the things that when Kathy reviewed the documents, she was pointing out just that strong desire to have sexual orientation and gender identity not be in the same definition, because those are such distinct concepts. And we're also discussing aligning with the state's definition, but looking at the state's definition, I think that there is an update to the state definition that separates those two concepts. We also had some more work to do in helping the document that was before you reflect all of the ideas in the Q&A, the applying the housing status in all of the right places. So we think we have some more work to do. So our attorney and I are taking a second look at that document and trying to make sure it's reflecting the requests from the questions in the original piece. And so we need to bring it back the next month. So we don't feel like we're completely ready to move forward. But Kathy, you jumped off and back on. I was appreciating your good eye, which helped us see that there were some more pieces to do in the document. So we're pausing and needing to bring it back. But I don't know if anyone has any questions or discussion that they'd like to share.
This is Kathy. I just want to say I appreciate you and the city attorney being responsive to the questions that I had asked. I think it's been very helpful. And it would be helpful if, when it does come back, if we could have all the changes reflected on one document to see kind of here's what everything that we think is going to move forward looks like.
That's a great suggestion. I found myself, I think I created more confusion by creating a second thing. And so I have the same opinion. I'd like to just work from one document because then we risk missing stuff on the second. So we'll do. I'm happy to oblige that request.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to both. So it looks like we have to bring this back, right, Gretchen?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a great time if you did read the documents and you found items missing or had questions or concern. Like you'll notice one thing, received a good suggestion from Lieutenant Aguilar to switch the name of intimidation over to bias to help, be consistent and reflect what it is, perhaps more accurately. I don't want to put words in Deb's mouth, but yeah, we've gotten some good inputs from all of you. So if this is a good time before we complete the work on it if you had when you read the documents, if anything else jumped out at you.
Yeah, for those who have read the document, do you have any questions or concerns? As stated already, we'll come back to this, but if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to let us know. Yeah, I personally don't have any questions at this moment, so if nobody else has any, I think we'll move on for now. But again, we'll bring this back when it's ready. So we can move on to our bias crime update, and that is Lieutenant Aguilar.
Right, so we had actually 4 bias crimes that were reported between last meeting. One actually happened just slightly before our last meeting, but it didn't get to me until after we had already met last April, or last month. So the first one happened on April 8th, and it was in Northeast Salem, and it involved a group of juveniles who got into a fight, and during the fight used some racial slurs against each other. And then one of the juveniles actually pulled a knife on the other juvenile. The suspect juveniles ran off. And at this point, we don't have any identification on who those juveniles are, but it is still an active investigation. Then on April 15th in Northwest Salem, we had a report of a pride flag that had been placed in a yard, and somebody came by, pulled the flag up and threw it and damaged it, as well as left some religious type pamphlets in its place. And along with that had some anti-LGBTQ language attached to the pamphlet. So that was called into us. However, we don't have any suspects at this time. So we're just awaiting any leads that we can develop on that. On May 1st, we had a assault, and actually I failed to document what part of town. I believe it was Northeast Salem, where a victim was punched by a suspect while the suspect was using anti-LGBTQ language, and it was a stranger assault. So the victim and suspect didn't know each other. And we're not quite sure if there's a connection, if the suspect actually was aware of the status of the victim or was just using that language during the assault. It doesn't appear that they knew each other. The suspect left prior to officers arriving, so we documented that in a crime report and are still investigating that. And then the last bias crime was on May 6th, and it was in Northeast Salem. And a business reported that their windows had been marked up with some anti-Black language, and they had actually just recently employed a person in the business, a Black employee. So they weren't sure if there was a connection, but they did say that the hiring was within the time frame shortly before the markings were discovered. So that was documented, but again, no suspect in that investigation. And then we had 3 bias incidents. The first happened on April 8th in Southeast Salem. It was a neighborhood disturbance or a neighborhood argument where two neighbors were disagreeing with each other, and one neighbor was using homophobic slurs and language towards the other neighbor during that incident. So we were called and it was documented. Didn't rise to the level of a crime. In Northwest Salem, a family reported finding spray painted some drawings and some anti or racist slurs, I should say, out in front of their home. The family that lived at the home is Black, and the language was racially motivated language, but it was in the roadway. And so the officer or the sergeant on scene ended up getting the Public Works Department to come over and paint over the paint so that the family didn't have to see that language there in the streets until they could get somebody to come over and permanently remove the spray paint, or I think it was spray paint or some kind of paint that they had used. So there's no suspect in that particular incident. And then in Northwest Salem, a mom reported that a truck had driven by. She was walking with her child, who is binary, I believe, and a person driving by was making some insensitive comments about the child as they drove by. And so the mom reported it to us so that can be documented. She wasn't aware or didn't know who the person in the truck was. And that was, I believe that was the last one. Yeah, so there were those three bias incidents, and then we had the 4 bias crimes.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Aguilar. Any questions or concerns?
Actually, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there a specific line that people should call to report these things, or is it just a non-emergency number? I'm just asking because there has been a very noticeable rise in, I don't know if it's nationalists or it's just generally racist type groups of people. Rather driving around with their flags or leaving graffiti at the little parks around. So I was just curious, is there one specific line, or should I just be encouraging people to call non-emergency?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So yes, in those incidents where there's no threat to life, then the non-emergency number, the 588-6123, would be the appropriate number to call. Obviously, if there's an assault or an encounter that's happening right there that we need to get there right away, obviously 911. And then what officers are trained to do is they're trained to identify whether it is a bias crime or a bias incident. Either way, they're going to take a report. And then with the bias incidents, what we're training them to do is to also refer those victims to the state hotline, the bias crime hotline, so that the state can track that information as well. But yes, long story short, the bias crime or the non-emergency number is the best number, even if it's graffiti too. So we have the graffiti hotline, which is a great number to call if it's just graffiti. But if you see hate graffiti like swastikas or hate language, calling that non-emergency line is really important, so we can have an officer go out and investigate, because they do a more thorough investigation. They can document it, and then we track it. Then that way we can look to see if there's surveillance video and do a thorough investigation. So yeah.
Okay, and is there somewhere where like me personally, I've researched it, and so I know the symbols when I see the symbols, but that's not everyone. Not everyone dives in like that. So is there a place, like, do we have a place here where we can look and say, oh, well, that symbol's this, like something to identify so people know what they're looking at?
Yeah, that's a great question. The city doesn't. I use Poverty Law Center a lot because they have a lot of good information on, because they do a lot of tracking on what's going on nationally. So they have a great website, the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's what I use all the time to try to figure out, what is this? I don't recognize this. What is this group? The FBI also has a whole section on bias crimes, and I believe they also have some of that information and some of those links, like to the Poverty Law Center, and then Anti-Defamation League also has, I think they have a link there as well, to some of that information. So that those are the sources that I use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I think we can move on to our complaints/concerns of discrimination, and that's Gretchen.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I had just one report this month, and it's not complete enough for me to have a good enough sense. I received a written document that asserted some pervasive experiences of bias from multiple organizations, but it wasn't specific as to when, where, or the type of bias or the organizations, and didn't leave a phone number and email, but I do have a mailing address. So I'm working on getting a hold of the person to try to unpack it more completely. But so far, I don't have a sense exactly of what the situation is, but that's the only report I received during the month.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen. I believe we can move on to our task force and or project updates. And that first off is awareness, and that's Kathy.
Thanks, Angelo. So the big news for this month is that the discrimination survey is out right now. Let's see, I think it opened May 3rd. It closes May 14th, which is this Saturday. I checked in with Marianne on Monday, and as of Monday night, there were 451 responses. Now, last year we had more than 800 total, and so we're a bit behind. And so I was to remind people, if you have a group that you can send it to, or a reminder to get it out there so we can get more responses. We met with the students, or maybe the students came, Marianne and one of the students came to our meeting at the end of April, and the students had some really good feedback about some of the questions and some of the wording. So there were a few tweaks made, nothing significant, but a few tweaks made, I think, for the better. And as far as the unsheltered, Marianne and Linnell Wilcox and 2 or 3 of the students, I think, were at Arches on Saturday. I was able to join them for a short time, but I couldn't stay for the whole day. But I know they were there, talking to people and administering the survey there. So we'll find out this weekend how many we get total. And I think we will expect a report to the full commission at our June meeting, if I remember correctly. That's what I got.
All right, thank you, Kathy. It looks like Amelia, you have a question?
Yes, where can we source the survey to help share it?
I'm sorry, I think you cut out, or either you cut out or my internet is being really spotty. So
I'm
not sure
sorry, I
if
have Winnie the Pooh like playing next to me. Where can I source the survey to share it with people?
Gretchen, is there a city where, I'm sorry, where you want to be able to share it just online? There's an email I think that you can forward the link with, but Gretchen would have that.
I'd be happy to. And Amelia, that might tell me that maybe you're not getting our monthly emails of the, we also sent an email out, and I always mean to put our commissioners on that. Maybe I missed you in our latest team. So that also alerts me. So I will get that to you, and then it gives me a question of if I've added everybody to the, what I call the MailChimp email group that have more recently joined us. It's also on the city's Facebook and on the city's Instagram, if you find that simple to access as well. But I'll send it after our meeting.
Yeah, and just to know, if you're on like Gmail, those emails go into your promotional tab instead of your main tab. And so if you see that those emails are getting lost, it's because they go into your promotional. Any questions for Kathy on the survey, anything of that nature? I just want to say thank you, Kathy, and all the other members for the great work. Thanks to the students. I watched the task force meeting, and I agreed with all the changes you guys made. I think they were for the better, and so I can't wait to see all the results from the survey. If there's no more questions, I think we can move on to our equity ask report, and that's Gretchen.
Yes, thanks, everybody. I regret I didn't spend enough time trying to track down additional updates. I was looking through the document and didn't spend enough time trying to gain additional information. So I've only got one update tonight, and that is that City Council made a decision to formally recognize Juneteenth as a holiday. So that's an official holiday now at the City of Salem. But that's the only update I brought this evening, and that's just a reflection of my own in a workload and not getting to trying to track down additional information for you. I know there's trainings underway and work underway at the city, but I've just not gathered that report back for you. I will prioritize bringing a more robust report next month.
All right, thank you, Gretchen. Our next item is our LGBTQIA plus intersectional rights task force. It looks like Tricarico isn't here. So Gretchen, would you have an update?
I'd be happy to. And also, I don't know, I think Kelsey and Amelia and Kathy are also members. We focused certainly conversation around the Safe Spaces program and on the equity asks. Speaking of the equity asks, for example, Commissioner Schwartz or Tricarico asked about if there's codes of conduct that are in place at the city that relate to all of this. And I was able to track down 3 so far. There's our general city code of conduct statement, but then there's also one unique to the Salem Fire Department and unique to the Salem Police Department that more specifically reflect those disciplines. But the team is working hard to kind of think through, will the city be at a level that the commission is comfortable with having them in a key role, since we're a city commission and the program is coming out of the city, thinking through how to make a checklist or a list of areas or categories that people would be able to demonstrate their work towards being a safe space in a way that's kind of strength-based and recognizing the growth that organizations are taking and trying to have freedom for the organizations to talk about what they're doing in that area and making sure that it's really reflective of a safe space with true work in that area, while recognizing that not everybody's going to have every last piece completely in place. So thinking about what would need to be done as sort of a prerequisite or as a pre-check to verify participation. The group discussed, Chair Waters checked in on the pacing of the project, recognizing that we're taking some time to really make sure we're comfortable with what the program would involve. We are needing to delay the timeline, but the group spoke about wanting to make sure the program reflected its intent and so was comfortable with that. But I'd love to see if the other people in the room might want to add to that update tonight.
I think you nailed it.
All right, thanks, everybody. I know, Gretchen, you spoke about moving the timeline a bit. Do we know by how much, or are we just kind of generally thinking?
I don't think we got there yet. We didn't actually get it out and predict additional months and times. There were sort of some wholesale changes to we have a draft checklist, for example, that was organized around required elements and maybe suggested elements or preferred elements. And the group decided to eliminate that structure and create a lot more open space. Kelsey had a great suggestion that maybe people could submit photographs or maybe handbooks or documents that help reflect the work they're doing. So we're really reworking the checklist document. We also didn't get enough time to delve into the, I think what's called the artist brief. Mike wrote up something really nice that would help prospective artists understand our request. And we didn't get time at the committee to delve into those concepts. And so we want to take that at the next meeting. So we didn't get quite to the task of amending the timeline. Also, the task force did alter their next meeting. Normally the team meets on the fourth Wednesday of each month, and the group is going to go 1 week later to make sure everybody can be there. So they'll meet on June 1st this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, hearing none, I think we can move on to our staff updates.
Gosh, we are cruising. And I don't have any. I couldn't think of any to bring you this month.
Yeah, we don't have quorum, so it's kind of like we're just moving, fast. And we also had to move our Chapter 97, and so it's like, hey, it's just one of those months where we don't have that much, to bring. So that's fine. How about our community calendar? I saw that Gretchen, you put out a small document on upcoming single events and then also ongoing events.
I did, thank you. That's in response to the request from last month where folks were interested in what could commissioners sign up to participate in that would increase just opportunity for connection with different groups or organizations. So those were all the things that I could find. I will offer also World Beat, as you know from past experiences, it's a full 2-day affair. And so I am wondering if there's capacity to run a table, because we would really need substantial volunteer time, I think, to be able to staff the tables both of those days. So I think it'd be good if folks thought about that weekend and everyone's own interest, and if that's something that you're interested in, comfortable doing, or if you want to delay another year until you're at a full commission and the COVID numbers are in a different place. I don't know how folks are feeling about that, but it would be a smart time to really be thinking about the World Beat and whether we should be signing up for that table or not.
Yeah, thanks, Gretchen. Yeah, just let us know how you guys feel about World Beat. I could probably do a couple of those days. I can't do all, because it's 3 in total. I think it's the setup and then the actual 2 days of the festival. So I could probably do a couple of those. But again, I would like to have, a couple of commissioners, because it just can't be me for those days. So if if you guys want to do that, if not, we can, certainly delay it until next year. So yeah, just let us know.
Angela, I'm happy to do part of it. I was planning on going anyways, and so I'd be happy to do, a little bit.
Of the dates.
I think it's June 25th and 26th is my understanding.
Okay. I think I can help.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like the 20. Gretchen, are we required to go on the 24th, or is that just set up in general for the festival?
I think it's set up, but I don't have the required paperwork. They normally send out that information, but I think that setup is Friday. They will have some evening activities, but I don't believe the tables are required to be staffed Friday night. But then it's a Saturday, Sunday, all day kind of commitment. So we've traditionally done like 3-hour shifts or 4-hour shifts where commissioners sign up for shifts. Kelsey, I apologize.
No, you're good. It's hard on Zoom. I have family in town during that time, so unfortunately I won't be able to be there.
I have prior commitments on that Saturday and Sunday, but I'd be willing to help out on the Friday.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think now it's see what other commissioners feel, and then also what days we can do, and the shifts as well. I know I can't do the 25th, but I can certainly do the 26th. So just the coming weeks, just find out, which works, what days work, and then I'll certainly also ask other commissioners to see how they're feeling on it.
Would it help everybody if I created some sort of sign up with shifts? One thing I've done in the past is there's a web page that lets you create like a schedule and then shifts, and people can sign up for particular shifts, and then that'll give us a good view of gaps and availability. Maybe it would be time to do something like that and see how it populates.
Good idea.
Great, will do.
Yes.
I think it's helpful. I mean, I've only done one tabling event before, and that was with Commissioner Waters, but I think it's helpful to have, if we can do it in pairs, it's always nice to have somebody else there with you so that you're not having to deal with everything all by yourself. But
That's really smart. It's also good for redundancy, just in case someone has something that comes up at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
We have some nice past materials. At one point, there was a student group at Willamette that did some analysis on what an effective tabling experience is, and they wrote out some materials that suggested a tabling approach. And so we've got some written notes about it. I think there's even a sample little script for talking with people who drop by. So we do have some nice guidance that I can locate and send out along with the sign up.
Yeah, I agree. We should have 2 or more people at a time. I did World Beat the last time it was in person, and it was a good experience. But if it was just by myself, I couldn't be able to do it, because we do get a lot of people for World Beat, and so yeah, having 2 at a time would be really good. Okay, if no other comments on the community calendar, I think we'll move on to our member remarks and or announcements. Okay, so hearing none, we'll certainly come back with our Chapter 97 for the next meeting, and then we'll also have our results for the survey, for the discrimination survey. So yeah, I hope everybody has a good evening, and this meeting is adjourned.
Night.
not everyone.